Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We are doing a really, really deep dive today into, one of the big ones, Mark Twain's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
Absolutely. A
Uh,
cornerstone. And it's so much more than just, a kid's adventure story.
right, it's got this amazing mix of humor, adventure, sure, but also some really biting critique.
Yeah.
Injustice, cruelty, it's all in there.
It really is. And you have to understand, Twain himself, Samuel Langhorne Clemens, born back in 1835, he wasn't just funny, he was sharp, a keen observer,
He saw it all in the Mississippi, didn't he? The good, the bad, the ugly.
pretty much. And Huckleberry Finn, well, most agree, it's his masterpiece, the humor, the characters, but also that deep look at society.
So our goal today, our mission, is to walk through it, really get into the details, chapter by chapter almost.
Exactly. We're focusing on the core characters, Huck, Jim, Tom, Pap,
Yeah.
and the big moral questions, the key events, all based on the book itself.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Where are we when the novel kicks off? Huck Finn. He's actually rich.
Yeah, from the end of Tom Sawyer. Right,
Yeah.
Found that gold. Huck's got $6,000, which is a fortune back then, earning $1 a day interest.
Sounds great. But he's miserable.
Instantly, fundamentally miserable.
Hmm.
Because being rich means being civilized.
Ah, the dreaded civilization.
Right. It's the ultimate irony. The money takes away his freedom. He's living with the widow Douglas. She means well. She's decent.
But her regular life, her rules.
It's rough living for Huck. He actually preferred sleeping in a barrel wearing rags. That was freedom to him.
So that's the core conflict, right from page 1. This idea of natural freedom versus civilized rules.
Exactly.
Okay, so part 1. This is Huck struggling against that civilizing process, right? The widow, Miss Watson.
Yes, those early chapters are all about the attempts to tame him. The widow's trying to be kind, make him respectable.
But it's Miss Watson who really lays down the law.
Oh, yeah. She's the one who's always pecking at him. Religion, spelling, manners. She represents that really strict, kind of oppressive side of morality back then.
And Huck's reaction to her lessons is just classic Huck. So pragmatic.
It really is. Like the story about Moses, Miss Watson tells him all about Moses and the bulrushers.
And Huck's interested at first.
Until he asks if Moses is dead. And when she says yes, he just checks out. I don't take no stock in dead people. He only cares about what's real, what's now.
And his take on heaven and hell? It's brilliant.
It cuts right through all the theology, doesn't it? Miss Watson paints this picture of harps and singing in heaven, fire and brimstone in hell.
And Huck's main concern?
Whether Tom Sawyer will be in heaven. When Miss Watson assures him Tom definitely won't be going to the good place, Huck is actually glad.
Because he wants company.
Exactly. He says he wouldn't want to be where Tom isn't. His loyalty, his friendships.
Yeah.
That's his moral compass, not some abstract religious doctrine. It sets the pattern for the whole book. Human connection over rules.
But he's not exactly free from belief systems, is he? He has his own set of rules. Superstitions.
Oh, absolutely. He's
Yeah.
just as rigid in their own way. That spider incident is a perfect example.
Tell us about that. It shows so much about his mindset.
He's sitting alone, flicks a spider off his shoulder, and it lands in the candle flame and shrivels up.
And his reaction is immediate panic.
Total dread. He knows, just knows, it's an awful bad sign. Guaranteed bad luck is coming his way. It shows how deeply ingrained those folk beliefs are. He hasn't escaped belief. He's just swapped one kind for another.
And the remedies he tries, they're so specific, almost like rituals.
They really are. He has to turn around 3 times, cross his breast each time, tie up a lock of his hair with thread to keep witches away.
Does he think it'll work?
Well, that's the funny part. He goes through all the motions perfectly, but he admits he has no confidence because killing a spider is just too serious. Worse than losing a horseshoe, apparently. But he does it anyway.
Meanwhile, Tom Sawyer pulls him back into a different kind of conformity, the world of books and adventure.
Right. Tom's gang. Huck only agrees to go back to the widows and be respectable so he can join.
And the gang's business.
Officially, it's robbery and murder, which just shows how disconnected Tom is from reality. It's all about following the books.
Those romantic adventure novels he reads?
Exactly. He insists on it. Like the whole argument about ransoming people. Ben Rogers asks what ransom means, and Tom basically admits he doesn't know, but they have to do it because it's in the books.
The rules are just absurd. Killing women.
Oh no, Tom says, you don't kill women. You fetch them to the cave, and you're always as polite as pie to them, and by they fall in love with you and never want to go home anymore.
Pure fantasy.
Pure fantasy. And it highlights that key difference. Tom cares about the style of adventure, the performance based on books. Huck cares about, well, staying alive, practical reality.
And that fantasy world gets completely smashed when Pap arrives. Chapter 6. Huck sees that boot print.
Yeah, that specific print in the snow,
Hmm?
with a cross in the heel.
Pap put that there himself, didn't he, to ward off the devil?
That's right. A bit of folk magic right there. Huck knows instantly it's Pap, and he knows Pap is after the money. The money that got him stuck being civilized.
And Huck's reaction is surprisingly sharp for a kid. He doesn't just wait.
No, he acts immediately, shows real foresight. He runs straight to Judge Thatcher.
And does what?
Gives him everything, all $6,000 plus the interest. He basically says, take it, it's yours. He knows the law favors the father, even a father like Pap.
So he gives up the money to try and get Pap off his back? Smart.
Very smart. He understands how money works, how it attracts predators like Pap. He even tells the judge not to ask why, because he'd have to lie.
When Pap finally appears, the description is just horrifying.
Oh, it's chilling. Twain paints this picture. Pap is almost inhumanly white, fish belly white from drinking. Ragged clothes, long greasy hair, that busted boot with his toes sticking out.
In his anger, it's all focused on Huck, isn't it?
Completely. He cannot stand that Huck is getting educated, that Huck is rich while he's poor.
Yeah.
He sees Huck's improvement as a personal insult.
And that anger spills over into this really ugly social critique, particularly about race.
Yeah, that rant is powerful. He blames the government for his problems, for letting his son have money while he has none. But the real venom comes out when he talks about the free nigger from Ohio.
The educated black man who could vote.
Exactly. Pap finds the idea of this man, who's educated, clean, and has rights, absolutely intolerable. It's the ultimate symbol for Pap of how the government has failed him. A white man. It exposes the deep rot of racism fueled by his own failure and resentment.
Then comes the delirium tremens scene. It's terrifying.
Pure horror. Pap gets drunk, starts hallucinating, screaming about snakes crawling on him, biting him.
And then he turns on Huck.
Yeah. He suddenly sees Huck as the angel of death, grabs a knife, and starts chasing him around the cabin, trying to kill him. Huck barely escapes. He ends up hiding with a loaded gun, ready to shoot his own father if he has to.
It's brutal, and it directly leads to Huck's first big escape plan in Chapter 7. He realizes just running away isn't enough.
Right. Pap will always come after him. So he needs Pap and everyone to think he's dead.
Which leads to the fake murder plot. He's quite methodical about it.
Incredibly, he finds an old saw, cuts a hole in the cabin wall while Pap's away selling raft logs. Then the crucial part, he finds wild pig.
Uses the pig's blood.
Drags the bleeding pig into the cabin, smashes the door with an axe, leaves some of his own hair stuck to the bloody axe, creates this incredibly convincing scene of violence.
And leaves a trail suggesting his body was dumped in the river.
It's ingenious. He's literally killing off his old identity. And he uses society's own assumptions that his awful father would probably kill him to get free. Free from Pap and free from the widow's civilization, too. He fakes his death to truly live.
So Huck escapes to Jackson's Island, and for a bit, he actually enjoys being alone, right?
Yeah, he loves the solitude at first. He watches the ferry boat firing the cannon, looking for his body.
And the bread floating down the river.
Right. The loaves with quicksilver inside, supposed to float to the drowned body. He knows the superstition. And when one floats right to him, he doesn't credit science. He thinks it's because the widow prayed for it to find him. She was always better at praying than Miss Watson, he figures.
Huh. But his alone time doesn't last long. Chapter 8, he finds someone else hiding on the island.
Jim. Miss Watson's Jim. And Jim spills the beans right away about why he ran.
What was the reason?
He overheard Miss Watson talking. Despite all her religious talk, she was planning to sell him down the river to New Orleans for $800.
$800. That specific amount becomes really important for Jim.
It does. Because it leads into this amazing conversation where Jim talks about his past attempts at speculating, trying to make money, but always getting ripped off.
Like the cow that died.
Yeah, lost $10 there. Then he gave his last bit of money to a one-legged nigger who was starting a bank, which, of course, busted. He lost it all.
And this history of failure leads him to this really profound statement about his own worth.
It's incredible. He says, I owns myself, and I was worth $800. I wish I had the money. I wouldn't want no more.
Wow. So he's defining his freedom, his self-ownership, in the exact terms the slave system uses to define him as property.
Exactly. It's a devastating critique. He knows his human value is literally priced by the market that enslaves him. He wants the money equivalent of his freedom. It perfectly sets up the novel's tension. The law says he's $800 property, but Huck slowly starts to see him as a man.
Their life on the raft starts, but it's immediately hit by danger and, well, bad luck. Chapter 10, The Floating House.
Yeah, this huge two-story house drifts by, wrecked by the flood. They go aboard, salvage a ton of useful stuff. Clothes, tools, even $8 in silver.
But there's something grim inside, too.
A dead man, shot in the back.
Yeah.
Jim sees him first and tells Huck not to look at the face, says it's too ghastly.
Foreshadowing there, obviously. But then comes Huck's prank, the snake.
Yeah. Huck thinks it'll be funny. He kills a rattlesnake and coils it up on Jim's blanket.
It's just a harmless joke in his mind.
But it backfires horribly. The snake's mate comes looking for it and bites Jim on the heel. Really badly.
Jim gets seriously sick.
For days. It validates all of Jim's warnings about handling snakeskin bringing bad luck. Huck feels awful. Absolutely terrible.
How do they treat the bite?
Well, Jim knows the folk remedies. Pabst whiskey comes in handy. Jim drinks a lot of it. He also chops up the snake, eats some, and ties the rattles around his wrist for good luck. It's a real wake-up call for Huck about how his actions have consequences, how he could hurt his friend.
They realize they need to figure out what's happening on shore if people are still looking for them, so Huck decides to go undercover. Chapter 11.
Right. He needs news. So he puts on one of the dresses they found in the floating house, tries to pass himself off as a girl, calls himself Sarah Williams.
And he finds someone to talk to.
Mrs. Judith Loftus. A newcomer to the town, but very sharp. Huck spins a story about running away from a mean farmer.
What does he learn from her?
Crucial information. First, people initially suspected Pap killed Huck, but now many think Jim did it and ran away. There's a $300 reward out for Jim. Second, and most urgently, her husband saw smoke on Jackson's Island and thinks someone's hiding there. He's going over to investigate that night.
So they need to get off the island fast. But Mrs. Loftus, she sees through Huck's disguise, doesn't she?
Oh, completely. She's too clever. It's actually pretty funny how she catches him.
How does she do it?
Multiple ways. First, he messes up the name, calls himself Sarah, then later slips and says Mary. Tries to cover by saying his full name is Sarah Mary Williams, then changes it again to George Peters, pretending to be a runaway apprentice boy.
Okay, so the name thing is bad. What else?
She tests his physical instincts. She throws a lump of lead at him and he claps his knees together to catch it. Boy's habit. A girl would spread her knees to catch it in her lap.
Ah, clever.
Then she asks him to thread a needle. He holds the needle still and brings the thread to it. She says a girl holds the thread still and brings the needle to it.
Wow, the details.
And the final nail in the coffin is farm knowledge. She asks which end of a cow gets up first. Huck guesses wrong. She confirms he's a boy, but she's kind about it, gives him advice. Still, Huck knows the clock is ticking. He races back to Jim.
And they escape just in time.
Just barely. They push off in the raft as they see the lantern lights of the search party landing on the island. Close call.
Okay, so they're on the river, but trouble finds them again. Huck gets separated from Jim after a steamboat crashes into the raft. He washes ashore and ends up with the Grangerfords.
Yes, chapters 17 and 18, this is a huge section. It's Twain's deep dive into Southern aristocracy and the hypocrisy beneath the surface.
Huck is really impressed by them at first, isn't he? Colonel Grangerford especially.
Oh, definitely. The colonel is the picture of Southern gentility. Tall, dignified, those piercing dark eyes, always dressed immaculately in white linen, blue tailcoat on Sundays. Very formal, very refined.
But there's this dark undercurrent, this feud.
The feud with the Shepherdsons. It's been going on so long, nobody even remembers why it started. They just know they have to hate each other. Kill each other on sight, basically.
It's completely senseless, and it exists right alongside all this refinement.
That's the core irony. And Twain ramps it up with the details about Emmeline Grangerford.
The dead daughter, the artist and poet.
Yes. Emmeline, who died young, she was obsessed with death, kept a scrapbook filled with obituaries, accidents, bad news. And she wrote these incredibly morbid poems called tributes.
Like the one about Stephen Dallingbot's.
Exactly. The ode to Stephen Dallingbot's deceased, who died by falling down a well. It's such a brilliant satire of that overly sentimental, death-obsessed Victorian culture, making tragedy almost trivial through bad poetry.
And the height of the hypocrisy has to be the scene at church.
Oh, absolutely.
Huh.
Both families, the Grangerfords and the Shepherdsons, ride to church. They stack their rifles in the corner.
And listen to a sermon about
brotherly love. It's perfect. They nod along, agree with the sentiment, and then go right back to plotting how to kill each other. The disconnect is absolute.
It all explodes when Miss Sophia Grangerford elopes with Harney Shepherdson.
Right. That breaks the fragile truce. There's an ambush, a huge gunfight. Huck witnesses it all. hiding in a tree. He sees his friend Buck Grangerford get shot and killed.
It horrifies him.
Deeply traumatizes him.
Yeah.
The waste, the stupidity, the violence hidden under the fancy clothes and manners, he can't stand it. He finds Jim, who's been hiding and fixing the raft, and they get away as fast as they can. The raft feels safer, more moral than that civilized plantation.
But peace on the raft is short-lived. Chapter 19, they pick up some new passengers.
The Duke and the King, or, as they call themselves, two total frauds running from towns where their scams got found out.
Who do they claim to be?
The older one, maybe 70, claims he's the poor disappeared Dauphin, Louis XVII, son of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, the rightful King of France.
And the younger one, about 30.
He claims he's the Duke of Bridgewater. Bilgewater, Huck thinks it sounds like. They put on this big, tearful performance for Huck and Jim.
And Huck and Jim, they buy it. Or at least they go along with it.
They feel sorry for them. It's Huck and Jim's decency again. They decide it's easier just to let them have their titles, call them your majesty and your grace, to keep the peace on the raft.
Which, of course, gives the frauds power over them.
Immediately.
Yeah.
But before the major scams start, there's that fantastic discussion Huck and Jim have about King Solomon.
Ah, yes. Jim's critique of Solomon's wisdom. It's amazing.
It really is. Because Jim approaches it with pure, practical logic. He just cannot accept that Solomon was the wisest man ever.
What are his main arguments?
Two big ones. First, the harem. Jim thinks any man with 1,000,000 wives must be a fool. Imagine the noise, the blim-blamming all day long. It just doesn't make practical sense to him.
Okay, fair point. What's the second one?
The famous story about the baby. Solomon threatened to cut the baby in half to find the real mother.
Jim doesn't see the wisdom in that.
Not at all. He thinks it proves Solomon was wasteful. Jim figures Solomon had so many children, about 5 million children running around the house, that losing one or two wouldn't matter to him. A child or two, more or less, were no consequence to Solomon.
So he misses the point about revealing the true mother's love.
He focuses on the utility. A half-child is useless, just like half a dollar bill. Wouldn't give a darn for 1,000,000 on that. It's this brilliant clash between abstract storybook wisdom and Jim's grounded, life-based common sense. He values life and wholeness.
Meanwhile, the Duke and King are cooking up actual scams. The lowest of the low has to be the royal nunsuch, chapter 23.
Oh, the nunsuch. It's Twain at his most cynical, maybe, and funniest. They advertise this amazing, scandalous play in a small Arkansas town. Ladies and children not admitted.
Builds the hype. What's the actual performance?
It lasts about 2 minutes. The king comes out on stage, painted all sorts of colors, and completely naked, crawls around on all fours. That's it. That's the whole show.
And people paid to see this.
They did. And the genius of the scam is how they get repeat business. They make a ton of money the first night, $465 over 3 nights in total.
How? Why would people come back?
They don't come back. The first audience is furious they got ripped off, but they're too embarrassed, too proud to admit they paid to see basically nothing.
Ah, so they protect their own reputation.
By telling everyone else how incredible and shocking the show was, they make sure the next night's audience gets fooled too. That way the whole town is in the same boat and no one looks like a fool alone. It's a brilliant commentary on pride and gullibility.
Amidst all this cynical scheming by the frauds, we get a moment of profound humanity from Jim. The story about his daughter, Lisbeth.
It's crucial, absolutely crucial for understanding Jim. He tells Huck this story filled with regret. Years ago, his little daughter, Elizabeth, wouldn't listen to him, wouldn't shut the door when he told her to.
And he lost his temper.
Yes, he got angry and slapped her. Hard. Across the side of the head.
But then he realized something terrible.
A little while later, the wind slammed the door shut with a huge bang right near her, and she didn't even flinch, didn't react at all. That's when he realized she was deaf. Likely scarlet fever had taken her hearing, and he hadn't known.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
And his guilt is immense, overwhelming. He tells Huck how he got down on his knees, put his arms around her, begged her forgiveness, crying. He says he'll never forgive himself. I bust out a crying and grab her up in my arms. Says, oh, poor little thing. The Lord God Almighty forgive poor Jim because he's never going to forgive himself as long as he lived. Oh, she was plumb deaf and dumb, Huck. Plumb deaf and dumb, and I've been a-treating her so.
It just completely solidifies his character, doesn't it? Shows his capacity for love, for deep remorse. He's not a stereotype. He's a father, a man with a heavy heart.
Exactly. That story is the emotional anchor. It counters every racist justification for slavery by showing his undeniable, profound humanity.
Okay, so the Duke and King, they're always looking for the next big con, and they find it with the Wilkes family. This is chapters 24 through 27, right?
Yeah, this is their most ambitious and maybe most cruel scam.
Huh.
They hear about a man named Peter Wilkes who just died in another town, leaving behind a sizable inheritance and 3 orphan nieces.
And he was expecting brothers from England.
That's the key. Peter Wilkes had sent for his 2 brothers, Harvey, a preacher, and William, who is deaf and mute. But they hadn't arrived yet, so the king and duke see their chance.
They decide to be the brothers.
Precisely. The king, being older and better at speechifying, takes the role of Harvey, the preacher. The duke, who's younger, pretends to be William, the deaf-mute brother. He even fakes a broken arm so he doesn't have to write or use sign language, which he obviously doesn't know.
Their arrival in town is quite a performance.
Oh, it's pure theater. They find out where the coffin is, walk in, and just launch into this incredibly dramatic, over-the-top display of grief. Weeping, wailing, throwing themselves on the coffin.
And the king gives these speeches.
Filled with what Huck calls soul butter and hogwash. He messes up big words, calls the funeral proceedings orgies. It's ridiculous, but the townspeople, and especially the nieces, are completely taken in by this show of sorrow.
The nieces, Mary Jane, Susan, and Joanna, who Huck calls the hare lip because of her cleft lip, they are genuinely good people, aren't they?
Completely. They are kind, trusting, and heartbroken over their uncle's death. They welcome the Frauds with open arms, and this is what starts to get to Huck.
He sees their goodness.
He sees their goodness, their vulnerability, and then he watches the king and duke preparing to sell off the family property, including separating enslaved families, selling a mother away from her children. Mary Jane is devastated by this cruelty.
And that hits Huck hard.
It really does. He feels ornery and low down and mean because he's complicit. He's helping these disgusting frauds rob these genuinely decent girls. His conscience kicks in, big time.
So he decides he has to do something. He needs to get the inheritance money back for them.
Right. The king had found the $6,000 in gold hidden in the cellar, as described in Peter Wilkes' letter. Huck manages to sneak into the king's room and steal the bag of gold.
But now he has to hide it. Where does he put it? It's a pretty risky spot.
Extremely risky. He can't find a safe place quickly. He ends up going into the room where Peter Wilkes' coffin is lying just before the funeral. He lifts the coffin lid.
No.
Yes, and tucks the bag of gold inside near the dead man's hands. He even notes how cold the hands felt. It's a really macabre, intense moment, hiding stolen money on a corpse.
Wow. Okay, so the money's hidden, but the frauds are still there. Huck needs to expose them. He decides to tell Mary Jane the truth. Chapter 28.
Yes, he can't stand seeing her so upset, especially about the enslaved families being broken up. He pulls her aside and confesses everything. Tells her the king and duke are total frauds.
How does she react?
She's furious, wants to expose them immediately, tar and feather them. But Huck knows that won't work. Her face is too honest. She'll give the game away before they can make a clean break.
So he convinces her to leave town for a bit.
Exactly. He tells her to go stay with a friend until later that night, so her expression doesn't betray them. And crucially, to prove he's telling the truth and to help her later, he writes her a note.
The note revealing where the money is hidden.
Right. He writes, I put it in the coffin. It was in there when you was crying there, away in the night. I was behind the door, and I was mighty sorry for you, Miss Mary Jane. It's his proof and his apology, all in one.
Things come to a head in chapter 29. The real brothers show up.
Just as the frauds are auctioning off the estate, perfect timing for maximum chaos. Now the town has 2 sets of Wilkes brothers claiming the inheritance.
How do they try to sort it out?
A sharp local lawyer named Levi Bell takes charge. Along with the doctor who was suspicious from the start, they start testing the claimants.
Their first test.
Handwriting. They compare the king's writing to letters from the real Harvey Wilkes. The king fails miserably. The duke, still pretending his arm is broken, can't write. That makes him look very suspicious.
What's the next test?
The tattoo. The real Harvey Wilkes says Peter had a small, thin blue arrow tattooed on his chest. The king, trying to bluff, confidently says it was a small blue PBW.
He gets it wrong, but there's still confusion.
Yeah, an old friend of Peter's insists there was no tattoo at all, so there's only one way to know for sure.
Dig up the body.
Dig up the body. And naturally, this happens during a raging thunderstorm. Dark, rain, lightning. Very dramatic.
And when they open the coffin?
A huge flash of lightning illuminates everything. And there, lying on Peter Wilkes' chest, is the missing bag of gold.
Chaos ensued.
Total chaos. In the confusion, the man holding Huck lets go, and Huck runs for his life. He gets back to the raft, finds Jim, and they shove off, thinking they've finally escaped the king and duke for good.
But not quite. That freedom lasts about 2 seconds, chapter 31, the lowest point.
The absolute lowest. Huck gets back to the raft after a brief stop, and Jim is gone.
What happened?
The king and duke had also escaped the mob and caught up to the raft. And the king, desperate, angry, and needing money for a drink, he did the unthinkable.
He sold Jim.
Sold Jim to a local farmer named Silas Phelps for $40. $40 for his freedom, for his life. It's sickening.
This triggers Huck's biggest crisis, right? The moral climax of the book.
Absolutely. Huck is devastated, and he immediately feels guilty. Not just about Jim being captured, but guilty according to society's rules. He believes he's done a terrible thing by helping Jim escape in the first place.
With all the lessons from Miss Watson, from church, from the culture, they tell him he should turn Jim in.
Exactly. He feels wicked. He believes he's going to hell for helping Jim. He actually sits down and writes the letter to Miss Watson, telling her where Jim is. He's ready to do the right thing, according to society, and betray his friend.
But he pauses.
He pauses. He holds the letter, and he starts thinking.
About Jim?
About Jim. About everything they've been through on the raft. Jim standing watch for him, calling him honey, taking care of him. Jim's kindness, his loyalty, his humanity. He thinks about Jim being sold back into slavery, maybe down south, separated from his family forever.
And he makes his choice.
He looks at the letter, thinks about praying, but knows he can't mean it if he's going to betray Jim. He takes a deep breath, says, "All right then, I'll go to hell," and tears up the letter.
Wow, that line, "All right then, I'll go to hell."
It's one of the most powerful moments in American literature. He chooses loyalty to his friend, his own sense of right and wrong derived from experience, over the dictates of society and religion, even if it means eternal damnation. He decides to steal Jim back.
So part 5. Huck heads for the Phelps farm, fully committed to freeing Jim, even if he thinks it's a sin, chapter 32.
Yeah, he arrives at the Phelps cotton plantation, and the first person he meets is Aunt Sally Phelps.
And she immediately mistakes him for someone else.
Right. She throws her arms around him, thrilled to see him. She thinks he's her nephew, Tom Sawyer, who they've been expecting for a visit.
Huck, being Huck, just rolls with it.
Instantly.
Yeah.
He plays along, pretends to be Tom. Then he has to figure out how to intercept the real Tom Sawyer, who's due to arrive any minute.
He manages to meet Tom on the road before Tom gets to the house, tells him the whole situation.
Tells him everything. His fake death, the raft trip with Jim being captured here, and crucially, that he, Huck, is planning to steal Jim out of slavery.
And Huck expects Tom to be, what? Horrified.
Absolutely horrified. Because stealing a slave is a serious crime, and in Huck's mind, and Tom supposedly, a terrible sin. Huck thinks Tom, being from a good family, will condemn him.
But Tom's reaction is the opposite.
Completely the opposite. Tom thinks it's fantastic, a grand adventure. He immediately agrees to help Huck steal Jim.
Which actually makes Huck think less of Tom, doesn't it?
It does. Huck says, "I'm bound to say Tom Sawyer fell considerable in my estimation, because Huck thinks Tom is willing to stoop to the level of a nigger stealer just like him. He doesn't understand Tom's real motivation yet.
It is.
Adventure. Tom doesn't see Jim's plight as a moral issue or a human rights issue. He sees it as a real-life version of the escape stories in his beloved adventure novels. It's exciting. It's got mystery. It hits him where he lived."
So this sets up the whole fiasco of the Great Evasion. Tom takes charge.
Completely takes charge. And insists they can't just, lift the board off the window and let Jim out. No, that'd be too easy, too unregular.
It has to be done according to the books, chapter 35 onwards.
Exactly. The books say prisoners suffer hardships. They have daring escapes. So Jim's escape has to be ridiculously complicated.
Like digging him out, Huck suggests using the picks and shovels they found.
And Tom is appalled. Picks and shovels. That's not how it's done. Prisoners dig out with case knives. It takes longer. It's more heroic.
Even though it's completely impractical.
Doesn't matter. Tom insists. They'll pretend they use case knives, even while they're actually using the picks when no one's looking. They have to make it seem like it took 37 years.
Huck just goes along with it.
He does, mostly. He figures letting on don't cost nothing. But you can feel his practical impatience growing. Tom cares only about the style of the escape, the story it will make. Huck just wants to get Jim free.
The elaborate plans get more and more absurd. Stealing things from Aunt Sally.
Oh yeah. Spoons, sheets, candles. Not because they need them, but because prisoners in the books always steal things and confuse their captors. Tom loves making Aunt Sally frantic trying to count her spoons.
They need a rope ladder made from a sheet. baked into a pie.
Yes, but the ladder's too big for the pie, so they need a journal for Jim, written in blood, on his shirt, with a pen made from a candlestick,
And Jim has to play music on a Jew's harp.
to attract rats and spiders, because every prisoner needs pets to tame. Tom wants to infest Jim's cabin with snakes and rats to make it more authentic.
How does Jim feel about all this?
He's completely bewildered and increasingly unhappy. He's the one locked up, facing real danger, and Tom is treating it like a game. Jim finally protests, saying, "I never knowed before it was so much bother and trouble to be a prisoner." It's funny, but also deeply sad.
The whole thing culminates in Chapter 40. Tom decides they need more danger, more glory.
So he writes anonymous warning letters to the Phelpses, warning them that a gang of cutthroats is coming to steal their runaway slave.
Why would he do that?
To create opposition, so the escape will be more exciting, more heroic, when they have to fight off the farmers he's stirred up. It results in about 15 armed men gathering at the house, ready for trouble.
And this leads to the butter incident.
Oh, the butter. It's peak absurdity. Huck is sneaking downstairs during the commotion, and he's hidden a big slab of butter under his hat.
Why?
Just part of the elaborate game carrying provisions. But he gets cornered by Aunt Sally in a hot room.
And the butter starts to melt.
Runs right down his forehead, and Sally sees this greasy, yellowish stuff dripping and absolutely panics. She thinks his brains are oozing out.
Seriously?
Seriously. He's got the brain fever, she cries. This totally distracts her and everyone else. Instead of grilling Huck about the escape plot, she sends him straight to bed, terrified he's dying. It accidentally saves him from the armed farmers.
Then the actual escape happens, amidst all the farmers with guns. And reality bites?
Hard. During the confusion of the escape, Tom gets shot. In the calf. A real bullet. Real wound.
And this is where Jim steps up again.
Big time. They get Tom to the raft, but Jim refuses to leave him. He insists they can't just abandon Tom, bleeding like that. Jim says Huck has to go back and get a doctor, even though it means Jim risks being captured again.
He sacrifices his freedom for Tom, the boy who turned his escape into a dangerous game.
It's the ultimate act of loyalty and selflessness. He knows the risk is huge, being sent back to slavery may be worse, but he does it anyway.
Does the doctor recognize Jim's actions?
He does. When the doctor finally gets Tom stabilized and comes back, he tells the crowd how the runaway slave, Jim, refused to leave the wounded boy, helped him tirelessly, risked his own freedom. The doctor says Jim ain't a bad nigger and argues they shouldn't be too hard on him.
Yet, they still chain him up again.
They do. Which just highlights the terrible power of the system. Even faced with undeniable evidence of Jim's humanity and moral courage, their racism, their belief in property, overrides it. It raises that question. How can they see that and still treat him like property?
The resolution comes in Chapter 42. Tom wakes up and finally reveals the truth. The big twist.
The biggest twist. Tom triumphantly announces that Jim has been a free man all along.
What? How?
Miss Watson died 2 months earlier, and in her will, feeling ashamed and guilty about planning to sell him, she set Jim free.
Tom knew this the whole time.
The entire time. He knew Jim was legally free while he was orchestrating the entire weeks-long dangerous evasion.
Why?
For the adventure, just for the fun of playing out his romantic escape fantasy. He put Jim through hell, risked Jim's life, risked Huck's life, got himself shot, all for a game when Jim could have just walked away free.
That's incredibly selfish, cruel even.
It's a brutal indictment of Tom's character and the values he represents. His bookish romanticism completely overshadows any real empathy or concern for Jim's well-being.
And Aunt Polly arrives to confirm it all.
Yes, Tom's Aunt Polly shows up unexpectedly. She confirms Miss Watson's death and Jim's freedom. And she reveals Tom had been intercepting her letters to Aunt Sally, letters that would have exposed the whole charade much earlier.
Just to prolong his game.
Just to prolong his game.
There's one last revelation from Jim about the dead man in the floating house.
Right. Jim finally tells Huck, the man whose face he wouldn't let Huck see back on Jackson's Island, that was Pap, Huck's father.
So Pap was dead all along. Huck wasn't being hunted for murder or by his father. He was actually free in more ways than one.
Exactly. Which makes Huck's final decision even more significant. He's had enough of all of it. The widow's rules, Pap's violence, Tom's dangerous games.
He rejects civilization.
Utterly. Aunt Sally wants to adopt him and civilize him all over again. Huck said, I can't stand it. He decides he has to light out for the territory ahead of the rest. Head west, away from settled society, before they can trap him again.
So, wrapping this deep dive up, what Twain gives us is this incredible journey down the river, which is really a journey into the heart of America's contradictions.
It really is. The raft, ironically, becomes this little island of morality and sanity in a river flowing through a deeply flawed, hypocritical world.
Mhm.
You have Huck's innate goodness, his developing conscience,
Clashing constantly with society's rules, which he sees are often cruel or absurd.
and Jim's profound humanity, his loyalty and dignity, standing in stark contrast to the way society defines him purely as property. It's a battle between natural decency and corrupt civilization.
The key thing for anyone reading this or listening to us is seeing Huck's moral growth, isn't it? He starts out accepting the world as it is, including slavery.
Right, he thinks helping Jim is wrong, a sin. But through his experiences, through his relationship with Jim, his own conscience evolves. He learns to trust his heart over the rules.
Culminating in that, all right, then I'll go to hell moment, choosing friendship over salvation.
It's a revolutionary idea, really. Masked as an adventure story, but it's a profound moral statement.
Okay, but let's end with that provocative thought, circling back to Tom Sawyer and that ending.
Yeah, the evasion. Tom knew Jim was free for 2 whole months, yet he subjected Jim and Huck and himself to that incredibly elaborate, dangerous, and frankly humiliating game, all for the sake of adventure, of following the rules of his books.
So what does that tell us? What should we, the readers, the listeners, take away from that?
Well, maybe consider this. Does Tom's behavior expose something deeper? A critique of a certain kind of privileged mindset, maybe a specifically white adventure narrative that values the story, the style, the rules of the game, more than the actual human reality, the freedom, the safety, the dignity of the other people involved.
Is Twain suggesting that this tendency to prioritize romantic notions or abstract rules or just plain fun over genuine empathy, is that a flaw that runs deeper than just Tom Sawyer? Something to think about.